Beijing draws people in with the promise of opportunity, yet beneath the bright lights lies a more challenging reality that few outsiders ever understand. For millions, daily life here means enduring relentless pollution, deep social divides, and cramped, windowless rooms underground, homes for a group known as the Rat Tribe. Everywhere you look, there's a story of struggle, from healthcare systems stretched beyond their limits to a social credit system that tracks every move. Are you prepared to explore the hidden toll of life in this sprawling metropolis? Stay tuned. Beijing is known worldwide as a bustling hub of culture, history, and opportunity. But beneath its vibrant image lies an intense struggle with overpopulation. Beijing is home to over 22 million residents, each drawn here by promises of better jobs, quality education, and the allure of a modern lifestyle far different from life in smaller towns or rural areas. Yet, this vast influx has its consequences. Recent studies involving over 1,600 residents of Beijing reveal a troubling connection between crowded living conditions and mental health. Findings show that as the available space per person shrinks, and as more people are packed into single bedrooms, affects mental health, this isn't merely due to the general stresses of urban life, but stems specifically from the pressures of limited personal space. As Beijing's population has surged, the city has struggled to keep up. The rapid expansion has exposed a deep-seated divide, with stark contrast between the affluent neighborhoods of the north and the economically struggling communities scattered across the eastern and western suburbs. On one hand, Beijing's elite enjoys luxurious apartments and thriving careers with access to the best resources and lifestyles. Yet, a significant portion of the population lives a very different reality, especially those coming from rural areas. Many of these individuals, often referred to as migrant laborers, make up a substantial part of the city's workforce. Despite their crucial role in the economy, these workers face systemic obstacles due to a restrictive household registration system known as hukou. This policy restricts them from accessing urban social services, quality education, and healthcare, creating an institutional divide that keeps many trapped in cycles of poverty and exclusion. Recent surveys show that Chinese citizens are increasingly concerned about the growing income disparity, with many calling for a fairer distribution of resources. As Beijing continues to expand, the question remains, will this megacity find a way to bridge the divide, or will these divisions deepen, leaving millions behind? But with stark inequality shaping life in Beijing and pollution affecting every breath, what does the future hold for the millions caught between a city's wealth divide and its struggle for clean air? Before we continue, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just press the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It means the world. It really supports this channel. And if you do that for me, I promise my team and I will do everything we can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Beijing's air pollution is a constant, invisible threat affecting millions. For Beijing's residents, air pollution isn't a seasonal inconvenience, it's a daily health risk. Long before global mask mandates, many wore masks daily to cope with the dense smog and hazardous air. The World Health Organization highlights that Beijing's particulate matter is often several times above safe levels. This exposure has led to soaring rates of respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. The economic toll is staggering too. Health issues related to pollution lead to high absenteeism, affecting workforce productivity and costing Beijing billions annually. Local tourism suffers as fewer visitors are willing to face the risks of poor air quality, and agriculture struggles as pollutants settle on crops, reducing yields. The damage to Beijing's ecosystem is evident, harming biodiversity and threatening local flora and fauna. For residents, pollution limits their daily activities, especially for children, the elderly, and those with health issues. The government occasionally issues warnings for these groups to stay indoors on high pollution days. But are these measures enough? Beijing's rapid industrial growth has come at a significant cost, turning clean air into a luxury. Yet, as Beijing's air grows more toxic and restrictive, another type of control looms just as heavily: the control over speech and information. With government control over media and internet monitoring, people risk punishment even for private messages critical of the government. This level of scrutiny, heightened during the COVID-19 pandemic, meant that access to vital information was restricted and open criticism was largely silenced. Through its extensive Great Firewall, China blocks foreign websites and censors politically sensitive topics, keeping its citizens away from a truly global internet. Those who question the status quo, including journalists and activists, often face charges for spreading rumors or provoking disorder, creating a culture of self-censorship. But what impact does this have on individual freedoms and the national psyche? China's control extends globally, influencing media, academia, and free speech worldwide. The year 2020 national security law in Hong Kong, for example, criminalizes dissent, affecting both local and international observers. Chinese students and scholars abroad reportedly face monitoring, leading many to self-censor in fear of government reprisal. This influence also reaches international media, where Chinese state-backed content seeks to shape global perceptions and discourage criticism of the Chinese Communist Party. As Beijing's control over information grows, the international community faces a complex question: how to balance diplomatic relations with the need to protect democratic values and free speech. How does this influence affect our understanding of truth? And how can global discourse remain open in an increasingly controlled environment? Given what you just heard, do you think international pressure can make a real difference in protecting freedom of speech within China and beyond? Share your thoughts below. Beneath Beijing's bustling streets lies a hidden reality, where thousands of low-income workers and young residents make their homes in underground bunkers. Known as the Rat Tribe, these residents live in spaces originally built as Cold War air raid shelters, later repurposed in the 1980s as affordable housing for job seekers moving to the city. Despite a government ban in the year 2010 due to safety concerns, it's estimated that between 100,000 and 1 million people continue to live underground. For them, the cramped rooms, often smaller than 100 square feet, without natural light or proper ventilation, are a vital, if modest, economic solution in a city with skyrocketing housing costs. Residents share communal bathrooms and kitchens, navigating hazardous conditions to make ends meet in one of the most expensive housing markets in the world. This phenomenon highlights Beijing's deep-rooted issues with housing affordability and urban inequality. The Rat Tribe illustrates the harsh choices people make just to live and work in the capital. Another challenging aspect of life in Beijing and across China is the hukou system. Created in the year 1958, the hukou divides citizens into two categories, urban and rural, determining their access to healthcare, education, and job opportunities. If you hold an urban hukou in Beijing, you enjoy top-tier public services. But millions who migrate from rural areas, even after years in the city, remain registered as rural residents. This rural hukou denies them full access to education for their children and raises healthcare costs, creating a barrier that sociologists like Zhang Wenren call one of the most rigid forms of social segregation today. It's a system that essentially categorizes rural hukou holders as second-class citizens. Though there have been reforms, these restrictions remain harsh in Beijing, where more than 290 million rural workers migrate to seek better jobs. However, the inability to change their registration leaves these families facing a social divide, where only the urban elite can access the best the city has to offer. This isn't just a bureaucratic inconvenience, it's a structure that perpetuates poverty and limits social mobility for millions. While the hukou system enforces a rigid social divide, an equally unforgiving reality awaits in Beijing, the relentless cost of living that shapes every part of daily life. Living in Beijing comes with a financial reality that few anticipate, an exceptionally high cost of living. Housing costs alone are a significant burden for most residents, with the average monthly rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment in central areas ranging from $500 to $1,000. This figure can soar even higher for larger or more modern units in prime locations, making housing one of the biggest expenses for those in Beijing. For many newcomers and even long-time residents, securing affordable accommodation often means settling for smaller spaces or moving to the city's distant suburbs, where rent is lower but commute times are long and exhausting. Healthcare expenses add to the financial weight, especially for those who seek out private clinics, often the preferred choice for non-Mandarin speakers and residents looking for faster, more individualized care. These clinics, while providing quality service, charge high fees and usually require upfront payment, making healthcare a costly necessity for many families. For many residents, the high cost of living in Beijing is a constant source of stress, shaping every aspect of their lives, from housing to healthcare to education. It's a reality that often feels at odds with the city's promise of opportunity, forcing many to balance their dreams against financial limitations. And while the high cost of living strains every household, the pressure on families doesn't stop there. The pursuit of quality education in Beijing adds another layer of financial and emotional burden. Students face grueling schedules, studying from early morning until late at night. Many also attend private tutoring sessions to prepare for the Gaokao, the National College Entrance Exam. This test, spanning more than 9 hours, can determine their future, from university acceptance to job prospects. But the stakes come with a price. Children face high levels of stress, with some experiencing anxiety and depression. Educational inequality further complicates the picture. While Beijing is home to some of China's top schools, access isn't equal. Wealthier families or those with connections tend to secure spots in prestigious schools, while children from lower income or migrant backgrounds often attend schools with limited resources and less qualified teachers. Then there's the cost of education. Despite government subsidies, quality education in Beijing remains expensive. Parents invest heavily in tuition, extra classes, textbooks, and uniforms, creating a significant burden for families with low incomes. Many make huge sacrifices, working extra hours to afford these expenses. Do you think the intense pressure and high costs of education are worth it for students in Beijing, or is it pushing families and children beyond their limits? Let us know in the comments below. Beijing's underground markets may appear like bustling hubs, but they conceal a troubling reality. Ever wondered what happens behind the scenes at places like the Silk Street Market? Known globally, this market is notorious for selling counterfeit goods from luxury fashion to electronics. These fakes deceive customers and infringe on intellectual property rights, sparking international pressure for stricter enforcement. Deeper below Beijing lies an even darker reality. Dixiacheng, or the dungeon, is a network of tunnels built as nuclear bunkers during the Cold War. Today they're repurposed as cheap housing for migrant workers. In the year 2010, officials ruled these dwellings illegal due to safety concerns. Yet many remain, revealing Beijing's serious housing crisis and the exploitation of its most vulnerable. These underground markets are also central to smuggling operations. Recently, a covert network emerged to sidestep export restrictions and import valuable tech, such as advanced AI chips from NVIDIA, into China. This black market involves buyers, sellers, and even students paid to smuggle these high-demand items. Such activities raise questions about international trade violations, national security, and the lengths some will go to gain an edge in the tech race. But beyond the counterfeit markets and the maze of underground tunnels, there's another crisis lurking just beneath the surface. How does a metropolis of 21 million people handle the overwhelming waste it produces daily? Stay tuned. With a population of over 21 million, Beijing faces a massive waste crisis. Producing around 25,000 tons of garbage every day, the city generates nearly 2.5 times the waste it did 20 years ago. But where does all this waste go, and what impact does it have on its people? Historically, about 40% of Beijing's waste has gone to landfills, often criticized for polluting the soil and water and filling the air with unpleasant odors. To combat overflowing sites, Beijing has turned to waste incineration, which reduces volume but releases harmful pollutants, such as dioxins, linked to serious health risks. This shift has led to public protests as communities push back against new incineration facilities near their neighborhoods. A significant part of Beijing's recycling efforts falls on informal waste pickers, many rural migrants who collect recyclables from streets and residential areas. Despite playing a crucial role in reducing waste, they work under difficult conditions, facing health risks and lacking social protections. Efforts to raise public awareness of waste sorting have struggled. A year 2018 survey showed that fewer than 28% of residents understood how to sort their waste correctly, adding strain to an already overwhelmed system. In May of the year 2020, Beijing enacted mandatory waste sorting regulations, bringing some improvements, but challenges remain. In Beijing, the social credit system goes beyond a simple credit score. It captures every detail of a person's life, feeding into a nationwide database. But here's the issue: this system varies widely across China, with no unified rules or standards. A minor infraction in Beijing might lower a social credit score, while in another region it might go unnoticed. And what happens when a government defines desirable or undesirable behavior? This authority raises concerns about rights and freedoms. Could this system be used to enforce conformity, punish dissenting views, or suppress individual expression? These questions aren't just philosophical, they're becoming daily concerns in Beijing. The potential for deepened inequality also looms. People from marginalized backgrounds, often facing existing social hurdles, may find it even harder to break out of disadvantage. A lower social credit score could mean limited access to loans, jobs, or even travel. While Beijing's social credit system controls personal freedoms, another harsh reality plays out daily on its congested streets, where endless traffic jams and thick pollution impact both health and quality of life. Beijing streets overflow with cars, buses, and motorbikes, creating daily traffic jams that can leave commuters stranded. The subway offers little relief, with packed stations and crowded trains making rush hour a test of endurance. Beyond the inconvenience, this traffic takes a toll on the environment. Beijing's air pollution is among the worst in the world, stemming from rapid economic growth, a rising number of private vehicles, and reliance on coal-burning factories that emit persistent layers of smog. To make matters worse, Beijing's mountainous surroundings trap pollution in the city, intensifying air quality problems. As of recent counts, Beijing has nearly 6 million registered vehicles, making traffic jams and harmful emissions inevitable. These emissions contribute significantly to pollution and health risks. Financially, Beijing's congestion also hurts commuters, who lose an average of $160 monthly due to traffic-related costs, about 12% of an average monthly wage. The city has attempted solutions, expanding public transport, limiting license plate access, and building out the subway network, but with limited success. Beijing's struggles highlight the complex issue of balancing modernization with quality of life and sustainability. What can be done to improve the lives of residents? Beijing's severe water shortage reveals a hidden crisis with widespread consequences. To meet its immense demand, the city has over-extracted groundwater, causing land subsidence in areas like Chaoyang, where the ground sinks by about 11 centimeters annually. This sinking damages infrastructure, increases flood risk, and complicates urban planning. To address water scarcity, Beijing launched the South to North Water Diversion Project, the world's largest, spanning over 4,000 kilometers to transport water from southern to northern China. With a staggering price tag of $60 billion, this project raises concerns about its environmental impact and long-term sustainability. The issue doesn't end there. Rapid industrialization and poor regulation have severely polluted Beijing's water sources. Roughly 40% of China's lakes and rivers are now contaminated, and nearly 1 in 4 residents lack access to safe drinking water. This pollution not only exacerbates the shortage but also poses significant health risks. Will Beijing find a sustainable path forward? These complex challenges underscore the urgent need for effective water management and environmental protection. Beijing is a city where history and modernity clash in fascinating ways. Did you know that this global metropolis traces its origins back over 3,000 years? Originally a small settlement called Gi, Beijing's significance began to skyrocket in the 13th century. It was during the Yuan dynasty, under the rule of Kublai Khan, that Beijing transformed from a modest trade town into the empire's capital. The construction of the Forbidden City, a massive palace complex that required nearly 100,000 craftsmen, symbolized Beijing's newfound role as the center of Chinese imperial power. Only the emperor and select palace officials could enter its walls. Beijing has also stood witness to some of the most profound shifts in Chinese history. In the year 1911, the Xinhai Revolution led to the fall of the Qing dynasty, ending over 2,000 years of imperial rule. This monumental event transformed China, but it's only one piece of Beijing's deep-seated past. With every dynasty, from the Ming to the Qing, Beijing adapted, yet maintained its role as the political and cultural heart of the nation. It's as if the city itself evolved with the people, while its ancient streets and walls stood as silent witnesses to change. As China's capital, Beijing continues to grow at a staggering pace. Today it is home to millions, filled with towering structures and advanced technologies that have redefined the skyline. Yet this modern cityscape coexists with traditions passed down for centuries. In a place where past and future meet, one has to wonder what impact does this blend of ancient and modern truly have on those who call Beijing home. While Beijing's story is one of power and culture, the lesser-known realities beneath its surface reveal a different side of this monumental city. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now. I'm sure you'll love this content. Comment below about the next country you'd like to see featured on our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.